Hello, I'm Raymond Young. I'm the Chair of the General Trustees, and I'd like to share with you some of the key issues in this year's report. Like most of us, we've been operating mainly digitally over the last year, and it's been a difficult time for those who have been looking after our buildings. So let me start by thanking all those who have managed the church's estate over the last year, particularly those folks in congregations who have looked after buildings, who have followed the rules set down by the COVID committee, who have patiently marked out 2 meters distancing, and who have ensured that buildings, where open, remained safe. And thanks also to those in presbyteries who have never expected to have to check buildings, to the insurance service who ensured the best coverage while it was unclear about which building was open and which building was closed, to the committee under the principal clerk who provided the guidance and the links with the government, and to the trustees' Safe Buildings team whose workload was dramatically increased. The long-term impact of the virus on the church's estate will not be known for some time. Some buildings may never reopen, while the costs of maintaining others is likely to lead to rationalisation. What we do know already is that there is no going back to normal. The future is going to be very different, and it means speeding up our well-equipped spaces in the right places plan agreed by last year's Assembly. Let's remind ourselves why we have this plan. The General Trustees are a self-financing statutory corporation and charity. We're about to celebrate our 100th birthday. We own most of the church's land and buildings. The church's estate is a significant one in Scotland. For example, we have more listed buildings than any other organisation. But the trustees own the estate on behalf of congregations and others who have the day-to-day responsibility for maintenance, management and development, subject to the approval of presbytery and the trustees. For we all know that many congregations, buildings are a problem, maybe even a burden. They can take up too much time and money, and maintenance has been a casualty of COVID. Buildings can get in the way of mission, indeed can become more important than mission. And we all know that the church has too many buildings, too many of poor quality, and too many that do not offer a welcoming face to those outside the church. And they are not all in the right place. So we need to prune and plant. We can't dodge it, nor fudge it, and so we need to plan it. Presbyteries are the key. The trustees don't determine where to prune or plant. That's the presbytery's job. But we can help, and so we are very glad to support and contribute to Faith Nurture Forum's proposed Presbytery Mission Plan Act. This act, along with the new regional presbyteries, should help deliver well-equipped spaces in the right places. Our report sets out how the plan is developing. We've published a toolkit that helps presbyteries decide minimum standards and where buildings should be located. Thanks to all who have contributed to the development. And with the Presbytery Mission Plan Act in mind, we have started to look at a new and faster way of assessing buildings to enable presbyteries to focus on the long-term sustainability rather than just physical condition. This will add to the toolkit and will look at issues such as mission, accessibility, maintenance, running costs, and the potential for zero carbon by 2030. Along with 4 presbyteries in the northeast, we've appointed Ian Murray as full-time pilot presbytery buildings officer jointly funded and jointly managed between us. We are confident that his appointment will really help the presbyteries with both planning and supporting congregations. Pruning the estate will involve some congregations having to be dissolved. When that happens, the day-to-day responsibility for the property passes to the General Trustees. Most buildings are sold relatively quickly for alternative uses. However, finding a new owner for some buildings of significant architectural or historic importance is not that easy. They offer little scope for redevelopment or alternative uses. And while they are often important to the civic life of the community or as tourist attractions, they will not have a future as the home of a worshipping community. Buildings like the Kirk of St. Nicholas in Aberdeen, the Mither Kirk of the city, where the congregation was dissolved last December. The kirk is now held by the trustees within a new historic property portfolio, and we are managing the building while working with external partners to establish a long-term sustainable future for the building outside the church's ownership. While we see this portfolio as a necessary tool in reducing the size of the estate, the trustees are concerned about the number of buildings that might need this approach and the resources required to care for these types of buildings, hopefully short term. So we're being very careful to ensure minimum expenditure. Our emphasis may just now be on pruning, but there is also planting. And there are green shoots, new partnerships that may indicate new direction for the estate. How about using rural churches as rural community hubs? We're investigating them with the Scottish Futures Trust. What about all these new housing communities that are growing around our towns? We are working with the current Perth Presbytery for a development for a new community outside Perth as part of its Presbytery Mission Initiative. And there will be more. And to help us do these new things and speed up the changes required, we need to change how the trustees operate. Governance is under continuous review. The Trustees Board initiated an organisational review started by David Robertson when he was Secretary and Clerk, and now being developed by Barry Miller, who was appointed as Chief Executive and Clerk in his stead. There has been a rebuilding and rebalancing of the staff team with a range of professional, technical and administrative skills that are appropriate for the land and buildings division of the church. And we will need to update legislation under which we operate, both at Parliamentary and General Assembly. We plan a consultation in early autumn so that we can bring this major review to the Assembly next year. At this Assembly, I hand over the chair of the trustees, and I want to thank all those with whom it has been a privilege to journey alongside over the last years. Congregations, presbyteries, national office groups, my fellow trustees, and the great staff team of the trustees with whom it has been a pleasure, mostly, to work with. I want to pay tribute to David Robertson, who is retired and to whom the Church of Scotland owes a huge debt of gratitude in carrying out the role of Secretary of the Trustees for 18 years. Well kent, well loved, and well respected, I hope he enjoys a retirement of cycling, sailing, and the occasional dram. And I'd like to wish Barry Miller and the team he is building God's blessing for the future. And finally, I leave you with this picture, which I first showed at the 2018 Assembly. Another different church building. This church's youth group's container says, Possibility grows here. Jesus says, "Behold, I am making all things new." Are we?